What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Pass. I'm Sudi and this is Sham. And today we'll be talking about the LASK United game, which happened 2 days ago. And also we'll be talking about transfers, Sancho, Grealish, and all the rest. Sham, how you doing?
Yeah, good man, good. Normally we don't put out post-match reviews 2 days after the game, but I just had to recover and sleep after that game. It was very
No, I had to bit of jet lag for myself. Back in Ireland, back in Cork, and just needed a bit of rest. But let's talk about the game. What did you think of it?
Not much. proper snooze fest, that one. It didn't really seem to go anywhere for a while. I think the fact that the first leg was 5-0, everybody kind of knew where the game was going, and it did pop to life a bit when the 2 goals were scored, as in the first two. It was interesting to see Martial at the end of the game score and smile and point at the bench. You know, some healthy rivalry, I think, with Rashford in terms of getting ahead on the scores chart.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Was he pointing at Rashford?
I feel like he was either that or Ole, because he wanted Ole to bring him on.
Yeah. So we got a couple points before we get into transfers. So I think we're both on the same page here, where we think it was a bit of a pointless game. But I was actually kind of thinking about it. Is it pointless, or would it be helpful for people like Pogba and Bruno? No, Bruno didn't come on. For people like Pogba who will play against Copenhagen, how do you see the game as in the grand scheme of things?
In terms of the season overall?
No, just as would it be helpful going to Copenhagen, or do you think it was kind of pointless? We should have just taken the first leg result.
Yeah, I felt that.
I'm sorry. Before that, I say that because Inter only had one leg, Sevilla only had one leg. So I'm just wondering, do you think it's going to be helpful?
They needed to play all the teams that had played the first leg. They needed to play the second leg. The problem with it was not that we had to play a second leg. The problem was that we won the first leg 5-0 away from home. You know, so that was what I think impacted the second leg more than anything. If it was 1-1 in LASK, then this game probably would have had a lot more first team players in it and that sort of thing. So I think it was the way that the first leg panned out that affected the second leg. In that regard. I think just going, I suppose, into the game a bit more, there's a lot of raps and a lot of positivity around Mengi playing his debut, coming off the bench.
Came on a bit late though, but
yeah, it came on a bit late. I was surprised to see Maguire play, but he seems to be one of those sorts who just keeps going and going. So a bit of it. Yeah. He looks lethargic, but he seems to play every minute of every game. When I say looks lethargic, he has the look of a guy who seems to be tired on the pitch, but constantly.
Well, with a wife like his, man, like I would be tired on the pitch myself. So
they had some good raps on Mengi, and he seemed a very humble sort. When he did some of the presses after the game and that sort of thing, he seemed like a sort of a humble kid who had the ability.
Do you know if they get any kind of press training? Because I remember Giggs. Well, Rooney, and I've heard about Giggs. I don't remember Giggs, but he was kind of sheltered from the press. But do you think? I wouldn't know, but do you think kids these days, the Greenwoods and the Mengis, do you think they get a bit of press training or?
100%.
Like
I've seen footage of the class of '92 having media training, like Gary,
they do. Okay.
Gary Neville and Paul Scholes and Beckham, or they would train each other. So like Gary Neville would read a question and put the microphone in Scholes' face, and Scholes would answer, and they were they're taking the Mickey out of each other and that sort of thing. So I reckon. I reckon they would. Yeah. Mengi probably has a lot, but yeah.
Yeah. So coming to the game itself, like kind of the more individual performance, I personally thought Jesse, Jesse, Garlow, Brendan Williams, the three stand out. I'd give it probably to Williams.
Trinity, is it?
Yeah, I'd give it to Williams, my man of the match, and also because he's gonna play. He's gonna play on Monday because Shaw is still out with the ankle. But it's good to see Jesse. Even the way he plays when he scores, he's not as kind of flamboyant as he used to be. I think he's taking down a notch. And I want to say this specifically. I think he's gone and seen Paul Pogba kind of take it down a notch himself. And if you remember, there was this thing with Pogba and Jesse Lingard and Lukaku being this kind of very, almost this kind of like rapper kind of personas, this basketball kind of personas where it's all about the bling and the Snapchats and all that. Yeah, that kind of, but you know, I feel since Pogba's taken down a notch, since Lukaku's left, Pogba's taken down a notch, Bruno's come in, and even Jesse Lingard, when he scored, he's desperate to stay, man. Like he wants to stay, even if it means playing 60% of the games, 60% of the minutes. Sorry.
But
And for me,
he'd be happy to
Williams
be a
was very
squad
good as
player if he
well.
can stay. If you asked him squad player at United or first team player at Villa or a club at that
Leicester.
level,
Yeah.
he'd want to be at United, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it does look like he's looks like they've calmed down a bit. I think with some of the antics. Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe there was a little bit of talk that I'd heard that the way that he acted after he scored the goal was a bit like acceptance he might be leaving, but he seems to want to stay. I think he has a role at United, but it would be less than what he's had in the past. I think he's gonna be not even in the first sort of 15. He'll be one of the sort of 16 to 20 type players as opposed to fringe first 11 type player.
Well, he's got to ask himself, I guess. He's got to ask himself. He is realistically for a winger / number 10. He's in his prime. Does he want to be part of what I think is going to be a Premier League winning squad, or does he want to go and play every single game and potentially win the FA Cup with a Leicester? It's just questions to ask himself. I think he's a decent player, but I just don't think United are desperate for him. But he should ask himself. He should ask himself, can I influence the team in other ways? A way like an Igalo kind of thinks of himself, where I'm not playing every minute, but I can kind of help these youngsters through. There
is upside to him, but he's not going to be a world star or a regular England international or that sort of level.
Absolutely.
So it's about what he can contribute, whether he's prepared to do that. Yeah,
he had his 2 years of his spike, and unfortunately never carried it through. The next point we had was I think Ollie seems serious about the cup, man. He seems serious by playing that squad and bringing on Paul towards the end and Martial. He seems serious.
Sorry,
and
who towards the end?
Paul Pogba and Martial towards the end to get him kind of warmed up for the game. I guess that's kind of common sense would say that. I think fair enough, man. Like Phil Neville talked about it in another podcast, talking about how the League Cup back in, let me think, the FA Cup back in 2004, we beat Millwall 3-0, 3-1 or 3-0. Tim Cahill was played that game actually. Yeah, I actually watched it in Greenwood that game. In our uncle's house. I watched it with him, but he said that cup kind of kicked on 4 years later. No one would have thought United was going to win the European Cup 4 years later, but any cup will do the confidence, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
And I'm sure Solskjaer wants the UEFA Cup on his resume. It's a purely selfish.
Yeah, I mean, that's a personal thing as well. For
there's nothing wrong with winning the UEFA Cup. The problem is, or the Europa League. Sorry, I keep using the old name, but I suppose the devil's advocates will say, "Oh, it's going to affect fatigue into next season." Yeah, it is 3 games. It's 3 games in a week. The question marks over the intensity of it. It's fair enough that he wants to go and win it. As long as I think from a fan's perspective, we're kind of like, well, what do you want to do on the league next season, or do you want to win the Europa League? Well, why? He's probably thinking, why can't we do both?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah. Look, I think from a personal perspective, every manager wants trophy. Like you can say Ollie's a club man, and he is. He's definitely a club man. He's a club legend. But as a manager, this is my job. This is my livelihood. If he ever leaves United, he wants to be the man to be thought of to take over. I don't know. A Dortmund or a PSG, because he can win trophies. So yeah, look, even if it's coming from a more selfish perspective, fuck it, it brings trophies to the club, and I'm happy about that. The next point that we had was Martial, man. He's a changed man,
Yeah.
And that type of goal we've talked about in many videos now, that tiki taka just outside the box.
The beautiful flitting and the flicking and all of that on the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And he seems up for it. At times he's been accused of being a bit laconic and not so up for it, but he really seems, really the mustard to really get in there and make a difference.
Once again, I think Bruno's been a huge part of it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Big time.
It's great to see, because I mean you should expect that from players, but there are times where off-field things can get in the way, or as much as we feel a bit at times a bit down about the direction of the club or whatever, I'm sure the players feel it all the time as well. So it's great to see. It's just great to see when they're up and about, and it indicates you think off the field things are moving in the right direction as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we can move to transfers a little bit. Sancho, I mean, I'm kind of sick of talking about it. It's one of those Sancho's transfer for me just is such a archetypical United transfer of the last 6 years, where it takes about 7 years to complete. It's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
There's just so much leaking out of the club, which Ferguson did mention. He had mentioned towards the end of his career where there are there are moles in the club. However, it seems like it's going to be done. Between 100 and 110, apparently 300 grand a week. Look, it's not my money. I always say that. I don't, good for United. They can afford that. But you were saying before this video, you said something about Woodward seems to be doing one deal at a time.
I've heard more than one person say that. I will do one deal at a time. Why are you doing one deal at a time? If you have, so I'm making up a number here. Say your transfer budget's 150 mil, right? Let's just make up a number. So if you know it's going to be 70 to 80 up front for Sancho, and you're going to pay the others down the line, well, fine. Put 80 aside. We've got 70. Who are you getting with that 70? Why are you waiting for Sancho to happen before you go and do that? The club doesn't move forward as quickly as it needs to because you're not getting the players in. You look at when you look back on Guardiola's first season or at Barcelona or Man City, or you look at teams that have done well and they talk about the players that they buy. There is a volume of players that come through, 5, 6, 7 players. And if we're only getting 3 or 4, that's fine. But why aren't you then working on 3 or 4? The Dortmund are in no rush to sell.
Yeah.
So either push it through really hard, and I mean, from my perspective, if the club had that funds and they want to get him, what's wrong with paying overs? Like if they think his value is worth 100, fine. But if you have to pay 110 to get a 100 million player, that's fine. If you think that he's going to have an upside to his performance,
and also
let's not get too petty about. Let's not work on one thing at a time and get too petty about £5 million if you're spending £100 million already.
And also from a negotiating perspective, going for multiple players, let's say they're going for Hudson-Odoi next and maybe a Memphis Depay, which I know they're not, but just hypothetically, my assumption is that kind of puts you in a position of strength, saying like, if you don't sign for us, if you don't want our money, we'll pay you 110, but if you don't want our money, you can we'll go to the next player.
Even if they wanted to get, say they're going after Koulibaly or Upamecano, right? It's a sign that you're trying to get good players in. It's a sign that I'm saying this because you prefer to play in the same position. But even if you're going after a centre back, I mean, the club's got funds, and Dortmund know that United are trying to get Upamecano, for example. Dortmund will think, United will have less money to play with once they push through their transfer from Upamecano. So it puts its own pressure on it. Getting one transfer at a time just seems so frustrating.
Well, if you look at City this week, man, City this week spent,
it's like War and Peace trying to get him in, the amount of information we've got.
If you look at City this week, they spent 30 and then 45, I think, on Ake and Torres from Valencia and Bournemouth. So, yeah, man, I am just looking at them. That's one thing. I think Man City will always be, at least for the next 100 years, be a club smaller than United. But I am very jealous when I look at the way they do business. Even Chelsea, the way they do business, it's fucking lethal, man. They go in. I don't know how United stuff gets leaked so hard. I mean, it's definitely the size of the club. It's definitely the fact that I'm not trying to blow United's horn or anything out, as a fan, but the size of the club is just so big, metaphorically and kind of an image level, down to the physical size of the club, that things get leaked so easily, and then things just kind of drag on. And I wish there's some sort of way that it can be fixed, I guess.
You hope the leaking doesn't affect the transfers themselves. That would worry me if the leaking affects the way that the transfer happens.
You're talking about like with money amounts and things like that?
Yeah, that sort of thing. The fact it's happening is not a good thing at all either. You need to fight, stamp it out. If I was a manager and there was stuff leaking out, I'd be hunting that person down and kicking them on their ass out in the street,
Yeah, absolutely. There was another thing. And also Sanchez. So just to kind of drift away to transfers out. Very happy Sanchez got asked to leave. well, not got asked to leave. I feel like he's
He was
gotten
given
fucked.
£7 million and said, "Can you
You're
leave,
fired.
mate?" Yeah.
You're fired. No, no. Well, he's
Alexis,
off the
you're
wage
fired.
bill. He's off the wage bill. I think he was on about 250 a week.
I've heard like 500. Like,
Really?
yeah, like they saved something
Okay.
like 55
Let's go in the
million
middle.
pounds.
Let's go in the middle. 375 a week.
Oh, that's
You know,
all.
that's
Okay,
insane.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only a house every week where I'm from. But look, I'm glad. Look, first thing, he came with the wrong intentions. He definitely wanted to go to City more, but I think United waved that green paper in his face, and he came over. Good luck to him. He's not a bad fella. Like, he's not a virus the way, I don't know. Actually, like a Lukaku kind of guy where he just became too much. He became, I guess, he dragged the team down a little bit too much, or what Pogba was about 6 months ago. He just seemed someone who's just down in his luck, the way Louis Saha was towards the end of his United career, where he just needed a change.
I think he was the right player, but for the wrong club and for the wrong reason. And
absolutely, that's the perfect way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just didn't work out for him. And I think he'd been used to playing in high intensity teams and pressing. And I think he had 4 summers in a row playing international competitions with Chile, who they played it with under Bielsa, so it was a very intense style. And they made the final. I think they made 4 finals and lost all of them. So it was just probably got worn down. You look at the other great Chilean players, like Vidal was the same. He has not really quite recovered from that either. Even though he's doing well at Barcelona, but he's not the world star he was at Juventus.
Point. Yeah, that's a fair point. I never thought of it as Vidal as well. He's just kind of gone off the boil a bit since about 2 years ago. Yeah.
But funnily enough, he had a break because of coronavirus. He came back for Inter and he started to find some form. Funny that, you know?
Well, there you go. So we'll preview the next fixture, I guess, on Sunday. But looks like we're playing Copenhagen. They did really well against what we thought would happen. 3-0. Actually, before that, how good was LASK's goal?
Yes, that was a very,
and the way
very
he took
good
it, it almost looked like a drop punt, like a Johnny Wilkinson drop punt. It just kind of came, and at first I thought he put his laces through it, but he actually put kind of the side foot through and just curved it around Romero. It was absolutely gorgeous. No one was saving that.
Yeah, he tried a couple of times in the game, and then one came off. And he probably knew he wasn't going through, but hey, I scored a goal at Old Trafford.
The only goal at Old Trafford this season in the Europa.
Oh, the only goal they conceded. Yeah.
So fair play. Yeah. So just in other results, Sevilla beat Roma. Leverkusen is through, beating Rangers 4-1. We said Copenhagen's through 3-1. We're through. Inter Milan's through. Wolves won 1-0 last night as well. So
Wolves have Sevilla because Sevilla beat Roma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
Leverkusen
assuming United win, they'll play the winner of that game. That's the one half of the draw. And Inter Leverkusen is 1 quarterfinal. The other one is, I think it's Shakhtar
Basel
versus Basel, which is an interesting one. 2 sort of teams that were flitting on the edges of the Champions League. So that's not. It looks light on paper, but you wouldn't want to play those teams in a semi. If you're into Leverkusen, you wouldn't look forward to playing one of those teams in a semi because if they can turn it on, you know.
So just real quick, again, we'll talk in more detail. But who would you realistically expect to go through, Wolves versus Sevilla?
I haven't looked at the form book for Sevilla, but they have a pedigree in this competition. They've won it 5 times.
No,
they're the club that have won it the most. I think 5 times in 9 years. Even from Dani Alves was playing with them. I think he won 3 in a row with them and then left, and then they won 2 more. Something like that. I could be wrong, but they have a pedigree in the competition. The Spanish teams, they have experience in Europe, whereas Wolves don't really have experience. So purely on that, I would lean to Sevilla, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Wolves.
No, Wolves
they won 1-0 from a penalty. So yeah,
Sevilla came 4th in
Spain behind the big 3.
Yeah, and their form. We're going this a bit too much maybe, but their form post-COVID was fairly reasonable. They beat Athletic Bilbao, Valladolid, Mallorca, like drew to Villarreal and Barcelona. So Yeah, I mean, the point I'm trying to get at is I think it's going to be a tough draw either way.
Yeah.
Assuming we beat Copenhagen, there's no fucking given, there's nothing given here. But I think it'll be tough fixture no matter what. Both the next
Copenhagen
two
would be the
fixtures are going to be
easiest,
tough.
obviously, but
Yeah,
Wolves or
yeah.
Sevilla or Inter or Leverkusen or Shakhtar or
Inter,
Basel, you wouldn't take any of them for granted.
yeah.
They're all a level up.
You'd hope somehow Basel gets to the final. If I had to pick for any of the four from the other side of the draw, yeah, Shakhtar is always a tricky customer, man.
I hope it's not Inter. I got a bad feeling about Inter just because they got so many ex-United players.
Yeah. Man, I couldn't. Yeah, I just had this thing. I think with those three who are there, and Christian Eriksen and Victor Moses, I just think they're half a Premier League side with a better manager. That's the way I'm. That's the kind of.
And they got a bloody good keeper.
Who's he keeper?
Haller.
Oh yeah, Handovic. Yeah.
Yeah, Handovic. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, that's a goalkeeper's name, isn't it? Handovic.
Yeah. Like Arsene Wenger's. I saw this thing the other day where it was a meme, and someone said, "My whole life growing up, I thought Arsene Wenger started Arsenal and named the club after himself." And I was looking at the meme. I'm like, that's what I thought until I was like maybe 8 years old.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I hope Leverkusen really should have beaten Rangers. They beat 4-1 in aggregate, but it was 1-0 on the second leg.
Yeah.
Really should have beaten them by more. They created a lot of chances.
Yeah.
They got some good play. Havertz is still running out for them as well. So
yeah, look, I wouldn't like to see Havertz against Brandon Williams. That wouldn't be fun to watch. Yeah. He's one of the best kind of with what he does. He's one of the best in the world at the minute.
Wonder if Forza gets a game there. But yeah, if Williams gets to the final, plays well enough, you think he should play.
Yeah, actually, that's another one who did well. Fosu-Mensah, he just looks to be getting his touch back, and yeah, look, man, I hope he gets a string of games. I'm sure Wan-Bissaka would welcome the rest as well.
I wonder if Fosu-Mensah, he's a big boy, 6'3".
He's a centre half as well.
I wonder if he could have a crack at centre half. He did. He's athletic. He's Dutch. So he's good technical skill. I mean, could he be the answer?
Yeah. I saw this thing, and without getting too politically incorrect, I saw this show once where they were describing how they would describe black and white players, and they would say white players intelligent play, and if it's a black player, they'd be like, yes, classy and athletic, but they wouldn't say the color of the player. So if they if you say Sam Jones, classy and athletic, or Sam Jones has to be black. Yeah. So just as you would describe Fosu-Mensah, athletic, he's strong, he's 6 foot, he's black, Sham. It's okay. Oh man, we're in between. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
I'm half white, by the way, but just saying.
Yeah. No, but
I think it was the whole Ian Wright thing with Crystal Palace. Do you remember that one?
You have told me that story. I think was it Ron Atkinson played for United, managed United. But it was him and
so he was
Dublin
playing up front. He was playing up front. I don't think it was Dublin, but there was another fellow who was classy and athletic. Right? Who was
classy and athletic, yeah.
So he and Wright were playing up front, and I think it was the first time that a team had multiple classy and athletic players. So they were asked about them, and they said, "Oh, the black players had skill and flair, but we still need the white players with their common sense." And Ian Wright was so outraged, he demanded a transfer out of the club and moved to Arsenal. And as they say, So
I wonder who played next to him. I swear it was Dion Dublin, man. Am I wrong to say that?
It might have been Trevor Sinclair.
Yeah, sorry, Trevor Sinclair.
Yeah.
I know it was the guy who scored the outrageous...
Dublin was ex-United, wasn't he?
Yeah, Dion Dublin's United. Sorry, I know it's Trevor Sinclair because do you remember that bicycle kick Trevor Sinclair scored from the edge of the box?
Yeah, the FA Cup, yeah.
And the fact that it's not the number one goal in the FA Cup ever, it's outrageous.
I remember watching, it was a video of the 100 greatest FA Cup goals of all time.
We watched that together.
Yeah, and
we watched it together,
68 long shot, 67 long shot, 66 long shot, all the way to number 2. All of these goals are 25 meters out. And then all of a sudden, just this cross comes in. Whoa.
Oh my God.
Because we were kind of waiting for number 1 because we knew what number 1 was, which is Giggsy 99, right? So we're watching 10, 20, 30 long shots, and all of a sudden this goal came out of nowhere. It was incredible.
Oh, I tell you, on a 5-yard pass first, let's have this goal up. I'm just gonna share the screen just because we're talking about it so much. Let's see if we can. Oh fuck, we can't. Never mind. We'll do it another day. But yeah, no, it's outrageous. It was outrageous. Anything else, Sean?
All good for me. All good for me.
It's a
Want to
nice
take us
chat.
out?
Nice chat today. It's a bit of a trip down memory lane. Yeah, I'll take us out. So thanks for watching the channel, guys, and thanks for the support for whoever watches. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and tune in on Sunday to watch the preview versus Copenhagen. My name is Suri once again, and this is Sham. See you later.
Thanks, guys. Keep passing.